All right, welcome back to another episode of the 1.2 podcast. It's been a while, Jack. How you doing?
I'm well.
Yes, you are.
How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So, we're going to start out today with a little bit of trivia for you.
Oh boy.
In what year did West Virginia become a state?
What?
In what year
Um,
did the state of West Virginia break away from the state Virginia?
I'm going to go 1832.
1832 is incorrect. All right. Let's see if we can get you a little closer. What year was the Civil War?
Oh boy. See, all I'm thinking about is Wisconsin right now, and I'm like trying to move across the Civil
20.
War. When
Yes. Yeah, Civil
the
War.
Civil War, I don't know what year it was.
Oh, okay. Okay. 1861, I believe, was the beginning of the Civil
Okay.
War. So you want
Okay.
to revise your answer?
That doesn't really help me. Is Wisconsin not 1848?
I have no idea about
Can you
Wisconsin.
look? Can you look at Wisconsin? Like, I need
1848.
to know. Am I
Yeah.
completely?
Wisconsin, 1848.
Okay?
Yes.
So chalk one up to Jack, but
Yep. Yep.
um, I don't. So it's the way you're asking it makes it seem like it was part of the Civil War.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
like, yeah. So like 1862.
Close. We'll give you okay. 1863, as it
Okay,
says on the flag that I'm sure you can't read.
you're very blurry to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doubting that would be legible anyway. Yes. So in 1863, a bunch of people in Virginia, mid Civil War, said we don't want to be associated with those terrible racist Virginians. We want to be part of the Union. We don't want to break away. So ironically, they broke away from
Hmm.
Virginia, not from the Union. So we got the state of West Virginia, which also ironically has maintained, I think, more of the tradition of racism than Virginia itself, but that's a story for another day.
This is a bad. So to on the geography though,
Yes.
like that. So Virginia must be close, right? Is Virginia the northernmost um, Confederate state?
Yes. Yes.
What do they call it? The
Yep. The
Mason
Mason
Dixon
Dixon
line.
line. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And in fact, it's a little misleading because the Mason Dixon line doesn't exactly run through. I actually grew up on the northern panhandle of West Virginia, and I was still about 6 miles south of the Mason Dixon line.
Okay.
So it's not a straight shot. Um, it kind of runs. Actually, includes Maryland
Hmm.
and West Virginia. So, but
Because
yes,
if you would have
Virginia.
asked me, I'd have thought I'd have thought about it a little. I think I would have concluded that Virginia was in the bad, but
Oh, I should have led with that. Yeah,
yeah,
no. So Robert E. Lee was a
sure,
Virginian.
right, yeah.
Virginian, right?
I
So
think
he
that's what
was,
would have
yep, he was very
connected it for me.
conflicted about that, but
Yes.
ultimately felt his loyalty lied uh, with his state over his country, which is an interesting thought back then, right? It was much more about the states. What state were you? That was much more your identity. I'm a Virginian, um, rather than an American. Um, but that wasn't actually the point of trivia or anything along those lines. The point of the trivia and everything was today's topic, which is uh, knowledge versus skills. In other words, do you think it's more important to have knowledge, the things that everyone should know, versus certain skills in life that you think everyone should know?
I mean, gut reaction skills, because you
Right.
can actually accomplish something.
Sure. So then my follow up is why is it that we tend only to teach knowledge and not skills?
Well, you might be preaching to the, well, I think right choir for your point, wrong choir, in general, uh, because I happen to come from a family that, uh, has an educator that's involved in the skills professions.
Right.
So I think I absolutely lean towards that, even though I am very unskilled at, at many things. But I mean, your overall broader point, yes, it is a problem. And, there's several things I can tell you and we can talk about today that, I
Mm-hmm.
think are problems with
Yep.
our education system,
Yep.
how we try and, lean or direct kids in ways that ultimately, they're not going to use.
So let's talk about all the things you're not skilled at, Jack.
I need to go grab Sarah.
um, what's interesting to me is how much emphasis we put on things like what year did Christopher Columbus discover America?
1492, I know that one.
Or what year did West Virginia become a state?
1863.
Or that's right. That's right. Or is West Virginia in fact a different state? Of course, I bring that up in jest as an inside joke because recently a colleague admitted that that was an unknown fact, and that didn't know that there was actually a separate state named West Virginia versus Virginia. Um, so I think what I was curious with is what you're a father now, right? No, I shouldn't say now. You have been for several years. What are some skills? What are some things that you feel are important to teach your children, that you want your kids to grow up and be able to do these things that I think probably are not going to be taught to them otherwise?
I have to be careful with how I answer this because of how unskilled I am.
Well,
Like,
no, that's fine because you always want your kids to grow up to be better than you, correct?
right, right. But you're talking about like me teaching them, and so I think if
Well,
my
no.
like if my siblings or my parents were to listen to this, they'd be like, "Do you even know how to do that?" So,
I don't think that's a prerequisite. I mean, honestly, we have YouTube, we have all kinds of things. You can get lessons. Like I don't know how to read music, but we're teaching our kids
sure.
a piano program, right? Using an online piano software. So I think it's more based on what are your ideals, and that's it. You're gonna get every single one of them, but or you yourself know how. Um, but what are some things that you would like your kids to grow up to know how to do?
Number one, they got to know how to bale hay.
There you go. Oh, what? It's not make hay.
No, no, bale hay and make wood.
Yeah, right, right.
So, I mean, to me, the things that come to mind is, and this is probably a little bit out there, but I would like them to know how to cook and
I think that's a fantastic one.
how to cook well,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think that's important. And it's not. I don't want them to fall into the trap. Not that we have, but where it's let's just throw this in the microwave or heat this
Right.
up. I
Right.
think it's important for obvious reasons that, we eat healthy food.
I think it is fascinating that so few people take an interest in food preparation or cooking. It's one of the things that we literally do every day,
Hmm.
but we seem not to be interested in improving.
Right.
Um, when it's not that difficult, um, of a skill. You can find a couple of good things that you like. You can develop a couple of recipes and things like that. But no, I 100% agree. I love that answer. My daughter yesterday, she's 8. She baked this thing called turtle bread, in the kitchen. We did not set foot in the kitchen.
Hmm.
She did the whole thing by herself, from
That's
flour
cool.
to oven, and it was good. It was good. She loves making pancakes and stuff like that. I'm excited that she has taken such an interest, but I do want my other kids to learn too. I think it's something that will serve you well.
Yep. Absolutely. I think the other, I don't know if it's necessarily a specific skill, but the other area, is related to personal finances.
Hmm.
Uh, I think, the obvious, easy answer, you gotta learn how to write a check because so many people
Yeah.
don't know how to write a check. But
Right.
I think that probably is a little bit obscure, and I'm not sure how many checks are going to be written moving forward.
Right.
So I don't
Right.
think that's the specific example, but at least have a better understanding of, what you're doing. And
Well, as we move away from checks, we also move away from checkbooks. And admittedly, I don't keep a checkbook. I do
mhm,
online banking, so I just monitor everything online. But I think the generation that had to write checks and keep track in their checkbook were much more mindful with how much they had and what they were
right.
spending. And gosh, I can remember balancing checkbooks. I mean, my mom or dad, they would sit at their desk for a really long time, say, "Where did that $1.50 go?" or what, like,
My dad to this day balances his checkbook monthly.
yep.
In fact, I would almost guarantee he's sitting at the kitchen counter right now having a cup of coffee with his glasses on, all of his receipts and his checkbook and his computer, and he's got an Excel spreadsheet, and he's probably balancing his checkbook right now.
We should call him up sometime. See, hey, you balancing your checkbook right
I mean, seriously, he
now?
is religious about it, and it's not. I don't know if I wouldn't say it's something he taught us, but we would help him sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was a
Yeah.
good, I didn't do it, but I had a idea of, okay, this is what it is and how you do it, and it,
Right.
it brings a certain mindfulness to your personal finances. So I think something along those lines. I don't know exactly what it's going to be
Hmm.
because I don't even carry cash. I don't carry a wallet. I
Right.
have a
Right.
phone case
Yeah.
that
A
has
lot
a
of
couple card holders, and that's it.
right. Right.
Um,
Well, at least you even have some cards. Some people, they've
yeah.
got Apple Pay or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and
I'm
that's
not there yet, but
yeah.
yeah.
Me neither. Me neither. Um, yeah. No, it is a different world of finance. Kids, you get to college. I remember I was a freshman walking down the street, and they're like, "Hey, sign up for a Discover card. We'll give you a free backpack." Okay,
Hmm.
right. And now all of a sudden, I have a credit card. So, if you don't teach your kids how to manage that, that can be bad really quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So something I don't know what it is. Maybe you have thoughts on what the next thing is, but at least a skill related to that.
yeah, budgeting, I would say, or financial management is overall,
Hmm.
trying to figure out how much can we afford for this, how much would I need for, if something bad happened, all those things. Absolutely, absolutely.
And then, I mean, the other thing for me that comes to mind, it's not, again, I say it not in jest, but like some people probably wouldn't consider these skills. It's like, that's just what I do every day. But,
Hmm.
it's like how to mow your lawn, how to, you know, I think about changing a tire,
Right,
that's
right. So
something so that
I
you're not helpless.
right. I 100% believe that that's a skill, and it is not just like handiness. It is it is, yeah, the ability to take care of the things that you have,
Hmm.
right? Um, and I even tend to take it a step further. How to do some minor construction stuff, how to install a faucet, how to change, a refrigerator out, or a, dishwasher, something like that. I, 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 I think those are things, not just because, I mean, first of all, it saves you money. I mean, tons of money if you had to have someone come in and install
Hmm.
something, but it also gives you an understanding of what's going on around you that I think is important. I mean, most people haven't opened up a wall and seen the wiring or the
Right.
pipes and things like that. It's just, well, you flip a switch and the light comes on. One day you flip the switch and the light doesn't come on, and if it's not the light bulb, they'll that's you're kind of done.
Yep.
Or same thing with, the sink backed up or whatever. Just having the understanding or the concept of what is going on around you. Your tires, how are your tires connected to your car, right? I think all those things are incredibly valuable skills. So we have, cooking. We have, I'll say handiness or handyman, or what, however you want to say it. And then we have finance. Um, I will throw a fourth one. Ironically, that's the one I'm about to say, is communication.
Hmm.
Right? How to talk to people, how to communicate with people in writing, in speaking. Um, I find that to be an incredibly valuable skill that, it doesn't seem to be a focus. We It's easy to just rally against like devices and iPads
Yep.
and things like that, but it's true. It has changed how we communicate to the extent that I don't think people can really have open, honest, face to face discussions as much as they used to, and kids aren't learning that at all. Um,
Absolutely.
so being able to convey a message clearly, um, and respectfully, and I mean, back in school, there was like the different kinds of writing, right? There was like persuasive writing. There was,
Hmm.
I forget all the others because I didn't pay attention, but you know, so the
Creative writing.
creative, right, right. There you go. Um, yeah, being able to convey ideas effectively.
Yep.
I think that's another skill that, I'm trying to teach our kids. For kids, how to speak to an adult, right? A lot of kids just they don't talk to adults, or if they do, it's in a completely different way.
Yep.
Just trying to teach them how to talk to adults, being respectful and things like that. Um, how
No,
to
I think you're. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's a lost skill, um, and it's doesn't bode well
right,
if we don't teach it.
right. So
I'll
I
add one more.
yeah,
One
yeah,
more. It's kind of related to that, and I don't mean it as the counter to that,
yeah.
but I do think to the extent we can, we need to embrace technology, and our the next generation does need to be
Hmm.
technologically savvy. Otherwise, you're going to
I,
be so far behind.
I actually maintain that my generation, or perhaps slightly older than me, is actually the most technologically, um, foundationally sound generation, because we actually used DOS, we
Hmm.
used, base operating systems. Um, I built my own computer, back in middle school. We started tinkering. It was much
Nerd.
easier. That's right. That's right. At least this nerd knows that West Virginia is a state from the Civil War and what year the Civil War was. I'm not helping my
That's
case at
some
all.
great knowledge
It's
that you have.
exactly. Um, but back then computers were easier to tear apart, and most things nowadays is just one big unit. It's a laptop or whatever. You can't really work on them. But I kind of forget where I was going with this. But we had this understanding not just of what was up on a screen, how to use a word processor, but the language underneath it. We had to go to DOS prompt and you know run a directory and then find the program, type it in,
Hmm.
all those things. Um, Things are getting easier and easier and easier. Right now, we just have icons, and it's a
Right.
touch screen, and you just press that, it comes up. Press that, and it's getting easier. But I agree. I hope that we continue teaching the underlying concepts and how to use things effectively.
Yeah, and
So
I think of it from a communication standpoint. Like so much of the world operates via email,
right,
and that there's an art to that because you do lose that human emotion and the human element to it.
absolutely,
So you need to be able to effectively communicate with technology. Um,
right, right.
it's how does this? People probably laugh at me. You probably laughed. I mean, you've seen it. Like, I have a lot of people read my emails
Right,
before I send it because I'm like,
right,
I don't know how this is going to come off.
right.
And
Absolutely.
someone always told me, uh, like, for the audience you're sending it to, you should reread it that many times. So, like, if you're sending an email to a group of 10 people, it's probably an important email. Hopefully,
Right,
it should be.
right.
Otherwise, you're just a bad person who's replying all to,
Spammer. Right,
yeah. So, like, that should be something you reread 10 times
right.
because it's that important. So that's always
Hmm.
something that's stuck with, maybe not exactly the number of times, but
Well,
just
right,
kind of
right,
hits at the importance of it.
right, right. That's interesting. I've never heard that. Uh, yeah. So communication and technology, those things do go hand in hand. Part of learning how to communicate would be how to use technology. I agree. So, obviously there's a lot of skills that we would like to teach our kids and that we'd like them to grow up with, a lot of different skills. And we could go through all kinds of ideals, but I think the things that we talked about today were kind of some of the core things that we hope to impart. Um, I want to bring it back to knowledge. There is a line somewhere, right, where like you probably should know this, like you have gone how many years without knowing when West Virginia became a state, um, and you've turned out fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are things that maybe you
Just
think
remember, we're talking about the proverbial you right now and not
yeah,
me.
not Jack specific.
I have always known West
there,
Virginia as a
there,
state.
there are people, but do you think there are some things that just people do need to know this just in order to function in this society? Society is made up mostly of knowledge and
Yeah,
not skills, right?
100%.
So what are some things that maybe you do need to know?
I don't know. So to me, it I'm thinking about what are some things. It goes back to our very first podcast on what is a generational talent. And I
Yep,
think my
yep.
my answer to that was you know when you know,
And
and it should
sure,
be like if you tell me you should know this, like within a second, it's either yes or no.
right,
I
right,
think that's how quick it should be. I don't know. Like
sure,
there's so many different topics on where we could go with
right.
what everyone
Yeah,
should know, but
I think it. I mean, I certainly don't think that anything that comes up on a trivia night is something that you need to know,
mm-hmm.
right, to get by. I think it's much more foundational for me. Knowing the difference between right and wrong, knowing the difference between good and evil, um, knowing, what your goals in life are. Right? Those are sort of personal things, but things that I think you should know. Um, I mean, do you need to know that there are 50 states in the United States of America? Probably not, to be honest.
Hmm.
If you went your whole life never knowing that West Virginia was a state, I don't think you're going to be unsuccessful. I don't think you're going to be unhappy.
Right.
Um, I think you do need to know, um, that there is a right and a wrong. I think that's kind of and I would take it a step further. I think you need to know, um, for the most part, what that right and wrong is. Um, you
Or
know,
at least when you're approached with a situation, does this fall on the right side or the wrong side?
right, right, yeah, no,
Does my
absolutely,
response is my response to this right or wrong?
right, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. In response to events,
And I'm not
um,
using this. I'm not using this as. I mean, this is just the example we've been using. I'm not suggesting that this specific example is, can lead to this, but I think when it comes to knowledge, the risk of not being knowledgeable is that you would perhaps lose credibility with the person, the audience, the group that you're with.
right,
Again, using this example, and I don't think this one does that, but if you were to say that you didn't think West Virginia was a state, I mean, you immediately get judged, and you've lost some credibility. It's like, okay,
right,
what else does
right,
this person not know?
right,
And if you start, the other person starts thinking, okay, is this potentially a problem? And again, not that example, because I don't think geography is all that important, but at least that type of geography. I think you should know north, south, east, and west, but
sure, sure,
um,
general directions and
right. But a specific state that's not even close, I mean, not really even close to the state that you live and grew up in, I don't think is that,
right, right.
weird not to know.
So
But I
explain to
think
me,
go ahead.
why do we say Eastern culture when China is to the west of us?
Well, it's also east of us. Like,
Yeah, but you get to like England first
right.
and Africa.
Because I think that just generally we are considered the West, right?
Yeah, no, it's kind of a trick question because the terminology came up when back in England, Europe, so it was like literally east for them, and
Yeah.
so they were the West. But I always thought it was confusing as a kid, when someone said Eastern medicine or Eastern religions or Western
Like the
civilization.
Eastern Orthodox
Yeah,
of the.
right, right.
Yeah.
So Western civilization. I was like, wait a minute. If you go west, you go across the Pacific Ocean. Are we talking about Russia now or China?
I remember being very little and some religion, something, and there was some church in Minnesota that was Eastern Orthodox.
Yep,
And I was
yep.
like, that's west of us, though. Here I am thinking I'm smart, knowing that I was
That's
probably
right,
in like second grade, like
right,
knowing that Minnesota is west of us, and like, but
right,
they're Eastern Orthodox. That doesn't
right.
make sense.
I had to correct my children with a very common misconception just last week, which was if you dig through the center of the Earth, you don't come out in China. It's the polar opposite. Look at a globe. That's the problem. We're stuck on maps. We never look at globes. You come out somewhere in the ocean. So,
I was gonna ask that, how you can even dig on something that's flat, but I suppose you would just dig straight down, right?
right, right. If,
You
hypothetically,
can,
you dig through the Earth's core
yeah.
and come out, the other side. Where would you be?
Well, right, but you wouldn't. But if the Earth is flat, then you're not coming out on any other side. You're just digging straight down
Right, right.
into. So it
Yes,
ends at the core.
it must. It
Yeah.
must.
Okay.
And then it like turns you around and you start digging back up unknowingly.
See, if I thought the Earth was flat,
Yes.
I would lose credibility with you, right?
Yes, you would. You would. Yes.
So that's knowledge
That's
that
knowledge.
people should have.
Yes, I agree with that. You know, it's ironic. Is my answer about what's knowledge that you should have, which is the difference between good and evil. Yet it was that specific knowledge that doomed man in the Garden of
I
Eden.
was just gonna say, like,
Like
that's
the one thing that I said everyone should know is the thing that God said, don't eat that. Don't eat that fruit.
right.
That's for me to determine. And
Well, perhaps that's why, is because
it is, and I'm being a little joking about it, but so
I think it had to do with the Bears decision and decision making in the last
Yep.
Eberflus game, but I don't know who said it, but some sports analyst or whatever said that was the worst decision since Adam and Eve. And I was like, that's a little dramatic, but
it's a little dramatic.
I think you're making your point.
Yeah, right. Theologically, if we want to touch that for a moment,
we're going there.
we're going there. I do think one under appreciated. I don't know whether to call it skill or knowledge, but is obedience. Right? It's a very counterintuitive thing to say it's a skill, but knowing when to follow the rules set before you, I think, is very important, and something that we try to teach our kids.
Well, I think that goes directly to right or wrong, right?
No, not necessarily, because the understanding of right and wrong is one thing. Being obedient to the rules set by the authorities or whatever of following right and wrong is another thing. Just plenty of people who recognize this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. I'm going to go ahead and do the wrong thing, right?
Sure.
So I think obedience.
I'm just saying it's generally guided by right or wrong.
Yes.
You choose to be obedient.
Yes.
To things that you believe are right.
But I think the difference is when you put obedience into the equation, you're now supposing that there is a higher authority, right? And that your moral compass is not guided solely by you. Mm-hmm. You're obeying someone or something else, not just your intuition or your gut thought or follow your heart or what things like that. I mean, I guess you could say, you're obeying your heart, but I would say obedience implies an authority greater than you.
Sure.
So we'll skip the deep dive, but that's our taste of theology for today.
We're mixing everything in.
That's right.
Theology, sports, geography, knowledge, skills.
That's right. This is a very very interesting episode. So, all right. Well, I hope that I can impart these skills and plenty of knowledge into my kids. I try to have a conversation.
That will come from your wife, right?
That's right. At least the practical skills. I try to be intentional, right? When we're talking about, and we homeschool, but it's not exclusive to homeschoolers. Talk to my wife, what skills do you think our kids should have when they're older that, maybe you don't have or didn't have growing up, or, that you want them to have. So now we try to work that into, what they do, either for homeschooling or just recreation and fun and things like that. Just trying to set them up better than us, right?
That's the plan.
There we go. All right. Well, good luck with that. And until next time, we'll figure out another state that nobody really knows exists.
Be good. Take care.